So I've been at the Future Fabrics Expo in New York for the last couple of days, together with Ari from Glean and Grace. Ari is one of the designers who has been on our Kind Fabric course, and she has been able to speak to the attendees at the conference at the Expo with such passion about what happens when a designer actually gets connected to what happens with their fabric, with the sourcing of the yarns, the fabrics, the final manufacturing of their garments. And that has been something that really does speak to the pulse of what happens in the Future Fabrics Expo. I do want to speak a bit to the difference between my experience with the Future Fabrics Expo and my experience with other trade fairs that do not have a specific sustainability focus. Nothing against them. They serve their purpose, obviously. They do what they need to do. However, I find that when I'm at a trade fair that is a kind of free-for-all, it's like you pay your money and you come up and you put your goods out and you make your displays and you talk with all the wonderful people who come by who want to know about your fabrics, who want to know about minimums and a lot of stuff like that, a lot of really important stuff. Many times people really just feel the fabric and move on, which is great because that's the habit most everybody's into when it comes to sourcing fabric. How does it feel? How's it going to lie in my cut? How's it going to fall and drape? And it's a really obviously vital factor in selecting and sourcing your fabrics. However, what I was finding was the rationale behind presenting the fabrics that I do, there just wasn't the time to be able to speak about that, because the people who were coming through, they're on a mission as well. They've just got to find the right fabric at the right time at the right price, and they've got to keep it going to find, because there are gazillions of fabrics to go through at a regular trade fair. So what happens is that there may be a wink or a nod to knowing the backstory and the traceability of the fabrics that I present at Motif, but it's a kind of, oh, that's nice kind of factor. Or some people genuinely are blown away that you can actually know down to the fiber where your fabrics are coming from. However, when it came time for me to look at joining the Future Fabrics Expo, they'd been on my radar for a while, and it was really a matter of finance to get to the point where I could apply. What I will tell you is to be in the Future Fabrics Expo is a rigorous process. It is a highly curated show. And so when you make your application to attend this show, to be a vendor on it, it is not pay your money and turn up at all. The team at the Sustainable Angle go to a lot of trouble to make sure that every single accreditation and claim that you make in your profile absolutely is true. They ask all kinds of questions, going to all kinds of levels in order to be able to do this well. And it is it's a challenge when you're going through it, because you're being asked, to really dig deep into what happens in your supply chain. And I have to say that, for as much as you're like, well, I'm showing you what I do, why do you need to ask? You come away with such a confidence, not only, that after all of that you've been selected, but knowing that you are in the room with equally impassioned, committed vendors who want to really move the whole conversation of sustainability in fashion forward. And that really is part of the real joy I have now in saying that the Future Fabrics Expo is the only show I'm going to do now, because because of that point, because what it means is because the actual so I was really speaking to the how curated the show is, and just how much confidence that gives me being in the show, because it means that there is a way in which not only do I know that everybody coming into the show who's coming to visit it is genuinely looking for sustainable solutions, or at least looking to learn about more sustainable solutions in fashion for sourcing. But it also means that when I look around and I see my different neighbors in the show, other vendors, it means that I, with complete confidence, can recommend, if somebody's looking for a lining, if they're looking for a certain kind of button or whatever it might be that other vendors are displaying, with 100% confidence, I can say, absolutely, head over there. Have you been over there yet? Have you met these people yet? Have you? And we're actually in a space where I heard somebody say this is like a sourcing at a sustainable salon. It was such a much more curated kind of experience that allows people to really understand what it means to be in this, just in this realm where it is actually possible. Yes, it takes effort. Yes, there's going to be more expense. And yes, there is a learning curve to it all. But I have to say, one of the things that I really appreciated about being at this fair in New York was the number of students and academics actually who came around. And I managed to catch the tail end of just one presentation that was going on. And in that presentation, there was a student at the end in the Q&A who raised the very valid point that she has obviously a real passion to bring the ethics that she knows now as being in sustainable fashion. She wants to bring them into her future career, but she is finding almost no opportunities to enter into a role that would allow her to really blossom within that context of creating sustainable fashion. The mammoth machine is underway, and that's what's kind of scooping up everybody who comes out of college. And I thought more about what she was saying afterwards, and it really is, I believe, for students coming out into the workplace now who have this real passion for sustainability but are finding very few opportunities. I'm reckoning that there needs to be a kind of pioneer mentality within the student body that's graduating. And these pioneers are inevitably the people who do not go into pre-prepared places. Pioneers are the people who go in knowing that they are going to do a huge amount of work in order to make something happen. And so it really is more, I think, of a mindset, rather than coming in and looking to support what is going on in sustainable fashion. There is definitely a place for people who are graduating, perhaps to collaborate more and to actually form things of their own. This is one option, and to move forward together and begin creating that space. Or maybe to be in the fast fashion side of things, to be in something that doesn't necessarily resonate straight away, but it's not wasted. That is going to be the entry point at which you, what do they say, win your spurs, that it's where you're going to start picking up experience good and bad, that is going to inform when you get to the point, you know, maybe in a few years' time where you've learned a lot, you've had a lot of hard knocks, you get to the point in maybe 3-5 years' time where it's, you know, you can step away from that and you can engage and maybe create something else that is completely in alignment with your values. And so I just really wanted, in a sense, to take this little space to encourage not only about sourcing sustainably, but as designers coming into this space of wanting to source sustainably, recognizing that as we come from two, maybe, I mean, it's a spectrum that we're coming into the sourcing scene on. You know, one is at this student level where there is discussion about what is available, what's not available, the raft of questions that goes on in order to find a track that you feel healthy with. But then, you know, there's all that spectrum through to more established brands who are looking to blend in and hopefully turn around eventually their practice in terms of sourcing and looking at these different materials and how well they may be able to fit into their mix. And so at the Future Fabrics Expo, that was one of the exciting things to see, that this breadth of experience could be serviced, could be gifted with the opportunity, and particularly in the New York, because it was free. The registration was free, and which is not the case in London. And so the New Yorkers got a really, really amazing deal to visit all of this. But yeah, I just would like to know from those little bits that I've shared already, what are some of the questions coming up that I could feed back to from those of you that are here just now? It would be great if you wanted to write something in the comment on the live, or Tara, feel free to chip in. What's something that you'd like to know a bit more about? Can brands source smaller quantities there? Emma asks from Aloma Consultancy. Emma, I think that's a great question, because the quantity issue is so vital for brands that are starting up. We know it's, and from Tara too, that was Tara's question. I know for some of the smaller supplies like buttons and linings and things like that, I think there are relatively high minimums for those things. I haven't gone around to the other suppliers actually asking about their minimums, but I know, obviously I can speak to what Motif offers, but I would say a good place to start in looking for the minimums of other kinds of finishings and fabrics that are needed, please do go to the website and see who the exhibitors were, and then you can follow through on their particular sites and find out what their particular minimums are for the trims and whatever else it is that's necessary. Or the I saw different kinds of linens there, different kinds of bamboo fabrics, different kinds of like lensing was there. A number of different brands are there, so you could follow through on the Sustainable Angle website to find out who the suppliers all were. I will take the opportunity to answer that question from Motif's point of view. At Motif, what we do is we ask for a 10-yard minimum for the fabrics that were in stock. Oh, Tara has, because Tara was actually at the show, and she says that they were all very high. Like, Tara, what do you mean by high? Yeah, so Tara was there with us. Tara was visiting, and she was able to go around all the vendors, and in her opinion, the minimums were very high. The lowest that she would find was about 100 meters, and that would be for a recycled, but not being recycled in the way that that she's happy to work with because there was chemical recycling going on. The other thing that really stood out to her was that it was suppliers who were at different stages of the process. So if you found the fibers that you wanted, then you would have to find which mill would actually spin those fibers into yarn, or you find the yarn you wanted, you then have to find which mill is actually going to weave it into fabric. So yeah, that it all felt a little bit corporate to her in that regard, and not quite so relational, which is, yeah, to the point which a number of people actually did point out when they were speaking with us at Motif's booth, just how much they appreciated the integrated nature of what we offer. And I guess it wasn't really something that had stood out to me personally before, but you know, you often need people from the outside in to show you, to reflect back to you who you are. And so that was exciting. Yeah, Tara, that at Motif, we are able to source the yarn, and we know the yarn is recycled mechanically from garment factory scraps in Bangladesh. And so that's the only stage that we need to bother about, is it comes from, it's 100% cotton garment factory scraps that are then blended with 100% recycled poly, and they form this yarn that is 70% cotton, 30% poly, 100% recycled. So the color, say for example, it's a red scrap of fabric, the tonnage that goes through the red scraps, that gets broken down, blended into the yarn, which is red yarn, and it then gets hand woven. So in the end, we've got zero waste fabric because all of those scraps are being diverted from landfill. We have zero new dyes, so no toxicity going into the environment in terms of dyes, and there's no wasted water. You know, it saves a huge amount of water. And then they have, you know, they're being hand woven, so they are practically zero carbon. So we have minimums that are just, when we go to production, 150 yards. And because of the way weaving works, some of you will know, you know, you've got the warp that is vertical, and that's fixed, you can't change that. Then you have the weft, which can be changed going across. And so the weaver can weave 50 yards of 3 different weft alternatives to create 3 very coordinated fabrics in 150 yard minimum. And so that really does become very accessible to create a small collection, but also to create a small brand sample run, because the fabrics are both repeatable and scalable. So it's possible then to move them forward even more. Now let's see what else we've got here. Another question. What information do you need from brands when evaluating if you are a good fit? That's a really good question, because to be a fit with Motif, basically you just need to be wanting to work with a fabric that is woven, not knitted, and that you're prepared to embrace a different practice as a designer. You don't have to change everything, but what I offer is a course that starts on the beginning of each quarter. So the next one will start up in January. You'll find all those links in my bio and wherever else you find links. And what that course does, it takes designers from their mood board to learning a very, very simple software system to create their designs. We go through learning about how the fibers are sourced, made into yarns. We then we get to grips with the different techniques that are available in Bangladesh that can be used in your fabrics. And we also then go on to talk about the impact that your order actually has on the communities that are involved in making it and in the environment. So you get, within our way of working, this holistic, sustainable approach to design practice. It's not just a case of swapping out sustainable for unsustainable fabrics. When you do that, it's good. I'm not going to knock it. Not every fabric you can use is hand woven. I'd like to see that in swimwear. But, you know, in order to really take on being a sustainable designer, we have to think about our practice and the incredible impact that we have as designers, because we are creative problem solvers, and the problems we solve are not just about creating beautiful things for people. We are about engaging our skills in making a qualitative change in this industry. And when we engage with artisanally made fabrics, what we're doing is ensuring that my one designer person impact actually has exponentially more fruit than if I am simply just swapping out fabrics. So yeah, that's, I think there's, you know, ask what, if we're a good fit, the fit really is in terms of mindset. And if we are designers who are prepared to be wholeheartedly part of this movement and not simply about changing sources of fabric. Yeah, that's a really good question, Emma. Thank you. Thank you for that. But yeah, it was interesting. One of the other questions I got a couple of times yesterday and over the last couple of days has been about the content of our fibers at Motif, because the fibers we use are 70% cotton and 30% poly. And, you know, the more savvy students were all like, hang on a minute, but doesn't that mean that part of that fabric is no longer biodegradable because it's got plastic in it? And I'm saying, you're absolutely right. It does have plastic in it. One of the other things that I do in the course together as a group, because we're always going through this as a cohort together, and we have fabulous conversations about issues and questions just like this. So this question about content is really relevant. And one of the things that we do in the course is really help guide each other into what is our lane. What is our lane in this whole sustainability equation that's going on? There's such flux involved in it. We understand. Hello, Salon Scissors. Great, lovely to have you with us. Feel free to ask any questions about what you're hearing or listening about sourcing, whatever it may be. Feel free to drop a question in. So yeah, this question about the finding the lane of our sustainability journey is really, you know, if you want to collect all the microplastics in the ocean and turn them into fabric, that is a fabulous effect on the ocean. That fabric, however, is never ever going to be biodegradable. And so we have to decide which lane within this whole world we're being equipped to move ahead with. And so for myself, I have seen firsthand in Bangladesh the horrendous landfill situation where garment factory scraps are just dumped. For me, it's very important within Bangladesh to help be part of reducing that. Now, ours is very tiny, and most everybody's is very tiny. I am encouraged that big brands like H&M, Target, all of these guys, they are customers of Cyclo Recycled Fibers, the company that we get our yarns from. So they are doing it at a very big level. Ours is a tiny level. But we are part of creating cotton that is broken down. Those cotton fibers get so short, they need to be twisted with poly in order to strengthen them to be 100% recycled. Now, the question has been, well, why don't you use 100% recycled cotton or blend it with virgin cotton? And that would have to be the solution. So maybe you could get up to maybe 80% recycled cotton and blend it with 20% virgin cotton. But then you can't call it 100% recycled, but also that virgin cotton is taking up land and water and resources in order to produce. And so for me, what I've decided is that my lane is to keep it 100% recycled. And one of those reasons is because the designers I'm working with are creating garments that are in and of themselves sustainable with this fabric. And what that means is this hand-woven fabric made from this recycled yarn, as I said before, it's zero waste, zero toxicity because there's no new dyes involved, zero carbon because it is practically that because it's hand woven. These fabrics are being made into garments that are intended to last a very, very, very long time. They are made to be in wardrobes and even passed on to other people. And so these garments, it is going to be a long, long, long time before those garments actually get put into any kind of landfill in need to be broken down. So that recycled poly that goes into our fabrics, I know is going to stay in use for a very long time before it actually has to be dealt with by the earth. And so in terms of our lane rather, at Motif, I am 100% fine working with fibers that have poly in them because I know the fabrics made from them are not going to be going back to the earth anytime soon. It was one of the things that I really enjoyed hearing Ari speak about. Ari from Glean and Grace, the designer who has worked with our fabrics for some time now. She decided that, let me tell you Ari's story because it's very, very special. You can find her at Glean and Grace on Instagram, and her website is gleanandgrace.com, GLEAN and Grace, GRACE.com. And Ari has had this idea since she had her second child and needed to just find clothes that actually made her feel human again. She made this amazing nursing bra dress, and she felt uncomfortable about so many maternity clothes, not only that were made with knitted fabrics that get baggy and you can't wear them after your pregnancy. She was actually feeling really uncomfortable about the fact that many of these clothes made for making women feel okay during their pregnancies were actually being made by women who could not have maternity leave, maybe, who were earning poor wages, whose kids were not in school. And just the contrast of that was just nightmarish to think about her garments being made in that kind of situation. So thankfully at Motif, what we've been able to do is connect with World Fair Trade Organization certified company Swallows in Bangladesh. And Ari has had her nursing bra dresses made with Motif's hand-woven fabric by women working at the village in Bangladesh, and then made into the garments by the women working at Swallows. And what this means is that she's been able to create a garment that she wholeheartedly can bring into the space that is empowering women, but is doing so thoughtfully, properly, and with integrity, because the women who are making them and at every stage in the process are also being respected and valued for all of their input. And so what Ari does, as I heard her speaking about her garments and her process, I didn't know this before, but one person was saying, so then what do you do with all the offcuts from your garments, your pieces that then go to waste from the cutting table? Ari is a tailor by training. She's an incredible tailor. One of the things that would frustrate her was when a garment was brought to her for repair and how to get a matching patch of fabric. You couldn't do it. She would look everywhere for pieces of fabric that might match. So what she does with the offcuts from the pattern pieces, she actually creates little selvaged squares, as many as possible, and gets a selvage stitched around them. And she includes those with the garment so that the owner has a patch of fabric to be able to use for any tears or repairs that are necessary in the garment. And I just think, Ari, literally, you think of everything. You're amazing. And so it's been really special to hear even that length of integrity of what's happening in the process for her to, just make that decision of what happens even with the scraps from her cutting table. So very special indeed. Ari, thank you very much for being there to share all your good stuff. So we're almost at about 40 minutes, which is about the time that we take on these third Thursday calls. I would love to have you drop in again next third Thursday. We'll be in December, so I'm not quite sure what date it falls on, but I really do look forward to catching up with you. And I'll give you all a bit more notice this time. Next time, this time was a bit crazy because of the fair. It was all just last minute. But anything else just before we head off that anybody would like to ask or comment at all? Tara, anything from your end you'd like to add in? Do feel free. Yeah, okay, great. Thanks. Anybody else? All right. Okay, well, thank you so much. And please do head over to motifhandmade.com. If you're not already subscribed to our email list, please do so, because that's where you'll find all the good stuff that will help you understand about weaving, but also you'll get a little video of what happens behind the scenes when people go through our Kind Fabric course. And just put it in your mix. Start thinking. We'll start in the middle of January for the next one. And I think we're going to have some intriguing people there. There were a number of people who were very interested in it, as I've spoken over this last couple of days. So thank you very much for joining us. And I look forward to seeing you all soon, here, there, or on Instagram, or who knows where. All right, then. Thanks so much. Bye.